And our SAP program is probably from about 2003.
Yeah, the white just bringing them in trays for food and water.
I can't remember the size of it. No, like they gave me my size the other day. They didn't tell me which client it was. This one is on the server.
Sometimes I wear some shots and the work that Joe told me I belong in the country. Yeah, I was, there's many things. I don't know what that was. I only want to buy you in the Bible, be a big tall guy, right? I'm getting my wife. I'm standing outside this door, he told me, I said, hey, big guy.
We told him to the guy that he's like rent that house, rent that house, so that's just what we live in. So it's a little too heavy. They call it 1.5 bathroom, but like the one room was like definitely like a closet that they put a toilet in. And,
Good evening. Welcome to the, excuse me, the July 11th, 2018 meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. We'll call the meeting to order. Our first and continued order of business is a notice of intent by Boot Hydro, LLC. The DEP number is 206-781, and the project location is 145 Pawtucket Street. A notice of intent has been filed by Boot Hydro to remove 270 cubic yards of rock ledge in the tail race of the Lowell Hydroelectric Project hydropower facility. The project is within the bank, land underwater, 100-foot riverfront area, and bordering vegetated wetland of the Merrimack River and the Northern Canal. We have representatives here tonight for Boot Hydro.
Yes.
Welcome, and
There.
introduce yourselves, please.
My name's Patrick Donahue. I'm the operations supervisor for Masson, Connecticut.
And Alex Bolonis, I'm an environmental permitting specialist at Enel.
Okay. Well,
Also, I wanted to correct the number. It is actually 170 cubic yards. I think that the numbers got messed up in the initial
Okay.
application. It's 273 cubic feet, square feet. and
170 cubic yards, okay. All right, can you tell us a little bit about the project?
Sure. So there is an existing wall in the tail race of the power plant. That's what separates the actual riverbed from the tail race or the exhaust of the turbines in the water. And it's a concrete wall with ledge on one side. And based on a study from 2011 that we conducted with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, our entrance to the fishway, where water flows out and fish are attracted to go in, that's the mechanism that we lift the fish up through the elevator. The ledge actually outcrops right near that. And so the testing that we did shows the majority of the fish just continue to swim in a circle and approach that area, but not go in. And so, similar to what has been performed at the Holyoke Dam, the thought is to remove that ledge to allow the fish, for when they're swimming, be closer to the wall and then hopefully lead right into the fishway.
This project is mainly an improvement of the fish passage system of the
Correct.
plant.
Yes.
And will it have any effect on the actual hydroelectric side of things, or?
No long-term effects, other than we will need to manipulate the system during construction for safe conditions. But that's really it.
Okay, so you're going to use, you don't, you're going to use several methods to blast the rock out of there, or?
So there won't be any blasting, because
No blast.
that'll, it really would just end up damaging the existing tail race wall. So it's basically just going to be manpower, jackhammering and removing it with scale pans and a crane.
Is that remotely, or does someone have to go down in there physically with the jackhammer?
So there will physically be men there and dive crews, and it can be seen from the site, but we will need a large crane at the site to reach over with scale pans to remove it, either onto a barge right there or up into our parking lot at the site.
I would think you actually have a little more control over what's going on with somebody that close to the actual work, rather than.
Right, so there will be control. So it obviously is a large project, and we sent it out to bid, and it's tabled for this year. So we're planning on doing the project next year, and I believe it's going to be several barges stationed in the water, as you will need. If you have any dive crew, there has to be quite an amount of equipment for that. And so I don't know exactly the method for removing the ledge. Ultimately, it will be removed out with a crane, but if it's going to be skid pan or put onto a barge temporarily, that's left up to the contractor.
Mm-hmm. So do you have to de-water that whole area to do this, or?
No. So part of the ledge is above water now, and part will be below water, but ideally that's why we do it in the summer season, because that's when flows are the lowest, as same with the water level, be the lowest then.
Okay, and that cement wall, the concrete wall that you mentioned, is that something that needs, I don't know, alteration or maintenance, or?
No,
Because the concrete wall will be the same as it is right now. Just the ledge is on one side of it, and it'll be going up almost to the wall itself, but not quite. And so really plant performance-wise, if the wall wasn't there, it really wouldn't be the end of the world for the plant, but it's obviously not the intent, but that's just there more to direct water out and to ideally control fish. So during times of the year, say such as now, the river flow is all going through the power plant and out that tail race wall. And so when we have more flow than we can handle, and then we're spilling at the dam, you've got water on both sides. So some fish are attracted to the plant, to that fish elevator, and some go to the fish ladder that's at the dam. So the wall is there to keep them from going where we don't want them in those conditions where we're not spilling at the dam.
And where is the fish elevator in relation to this? Is this in that tail race that you're
So
modifying?
the entrance is right at the end of the physical plant and where the wall begins. And so it's also not a straight shot. The flow comes out and the wall angles, and it also impacts that ledge. And so that's what the study showed, that the fish would swim. And there are fish that go in it, but there's a substantial amount that don't. So ideally, they'll circle, they'll swim in a circle like they do, but hopefully closer to the wall, and then enter the elevator.
Okay. I had a chance to take a tour of that fish facility years ago when it was first built. And, they were a little concerned then that it wasn't working the way they expected it. So this is probably a good thing,
Right.
providing we can get some fish attracted to it. So you have a plan to keep the rock from falling into the tail race area, and you have a plan to capture any silt that might be created? I saw something about silt curtains.
The specifics we'll get more into when we actually hire the contractor for it, but our idea now is to suggest using a sort of silt catching fence under the water there and above it to prevent any excess rock from moving out of that area, and then moving that off-site with the rest of the excavated material.
And would that last installed that way for the entire project, or do you have to remove silt occasionally or something?
I mean, most likely it'll have to be maintained thoroughly, but that'll be more of a, at the time, kind of figuring that out. If it does build up very quickly, then yeah, we will have to take that into measure immediately.
So when you're done, we'll see almost no difference.
No, most of the rock excavation will be under the water. Well, I guess in the high flow periods it'll be under the water. In the summer it's pretty much half and half. But yeah, it should really just be for the fish flow.
Now, would this be an alternative to keeping that other fish ladder open, or is that required to stay open as well?
So the ladder at the dam runs the whole season regardless, because ideally we want to pass fish one way or another. So some fish do get attracted to the riverbed stretch of it, and when we built the plant, finished up in 1984, the requirements were to put in the fish elevator and to make modifications such as weirs in the riverbed that would enhance the use of the ladder. So last year we installed a camera system in both the windows. We always did fish counts at the elevator, but we never did counts at the window at the ladder. And so these past 2 years with the camera system has shown that the ladder is just as effective or better than the fish elevator at passing fish. So it's in our best interest to keep them both going. So say we get 100 fish at the Lawrence facility, ideally we want 100 fish to go through Lowell. Some are gonna go up the Concord River, some are gonna spawn in between, but this is one of those measures we're taking to try to enhance the numbers overall.
What have you seen lately? Have the fish decreased between Lawrence and Lowell?
No, especially with running the ladder full-time during the season, the ladder at the dam, the numbers have come up. Before, we only ran that when there was water spilling over the dam because we knew that they were attracted there. So I think we're probably this year about 30%, which is a low number. We used to be roughly 20%. So ideally, this ledge removal will get us higher passage numbers, and then from there, it's a never-ending continuous modifications system to the fish ladder, to the fish elevator. Next would be gate modifications, as opposed to a straight up and down gate. They have modified angled gates that might work better, might attract the fish better. So it's on and on and on it goes.
It's pretty interesting. I hope you can come back with some information about how things have improved, if possible.
Sure. And we also, I don't know if anyone's responded, but next week we do have the relicensing tour.
Oh, is it next week?
Yes. So it's,
Can you say when and where so that the public can attend?
it is Wednesday, and it starts at I believe it starts at the plant at 145 Pawtucket Street, I believe, 8 in the morning. I can email back definite.
Okay. And how long will it last? Is it going to be all day?
I think it's going to be all day. We've got some tour buses lined up, so there'll be a tour of the facility, I believe a tour of the dam and the Crest Gate construction and whatnot, and a few other places depending on where the FERC wants to bring everybody. So
It sounds fabulous.
Is it open to the public?
yes.
Okay, maybe we can put that on the city website or as an event, or
I could ask.
I'd like to advertise it somehow, because you never get to go in there.
It's part of our license. We give tours, so
Yeah.
the second floor is a tourist exhibit at the site. So anytime someone wants a tour, we regularly give tours to Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, second graders, engineering
Wonderful.
students, you
Yeah.
name it.
Good to know. Thank you. Well, I'm very excited about the project, and it seems to be well thought out, and you've consulted almost everybody you could think of that might have an opinion about whether it's a good thing or not, and we'll open it up to the commission. Questions or comments?
Are you in the ACEC? Does this need a MEPA review?
No, it does not.
So you're not in the ACEC?
No.
Okay. And then Army Corps of Engineers, doesn't need one of those permits?
Army Corps is looking at the dredging permit now. That's kind of why this ended up getting pushed back, really, because they said that the review might take a little while. But right now, we're kind of just revising our past dredging permit that we used to create something else there to re-up it for this current project.
Okay. So you haven't gotten the official dredging permit from them yet, but
Not
it's,
the official, no.
okay, but you expect you will?
That's what we're told.
Okay. And then it said, we have some notes here, that you guys have corresponded with agencies like the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Marine Service, even New Hampshire Fish and Game. Everyone's good with this?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't heard anything. I actually did bring a few copies of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service memo as well, since I realized that it wasn't in the initial package that I think that we sent to you.
So do you have many comments, or is everyone pro?
Everyone's pro?
Okay, I'm good.
Yes, I think, with approval from Army Corps, I think everything looks good.
Bonnie?
I was concerned when I read the application and the summary that we received, when I saw that the site plan would include drilling, jackhammering, and blasting, and you just cleared that up, there is no blasting, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then I saw the measures that the plan has put in place, that you're going to install and maintain a turbidity curtain, that's the floating silt boom, all right? And that you're going to do a stable anchor, and you're going to surround the staging area with a sediment filtration, and you're going to inspect the practices at least once a week, and then if there's heavy rain storms or falls, heavy rainfall, that you would inspect it after that. These are all in place, correct? When you're removing the rock ledge,
They will be as a contractor requirement.
contract required, okay.
Right, contractor requirement, that's what that will be.
Yeah, we'll write that in, sure.
The contractor hasn't been picked yet.
Because if you're going to be drilling and jackhammering, there's going to be a lot of
Oh, yeah.
silt. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we can open this up to the public now, if there are any questions or comments. Questions or comments concerning this project of removing rock ledge at the Boot Hydro plant? Okay, hearing none. We have a motion from the,
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
motion to close the public hearing.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the hearing's
Aye.
closed. Do we have a motion concerning the notice?
Want to do it? I'll make a motion to issue a standard City of Lowell order of conditions. But-
Motion made, second?
Second.
Seconded, any discussion?
I think I just want to make sure that what you're talking about, one thing you said I didn't like, we'll deal with that during construction on whoever gets the bid, no, like, it needs to be on the plans that you're gonna have that, so whatever contract documents go out to bid has that. So what are we calling this, the silt catcher thing? Or whatever the,
I don't know what the trade name is, but obviously turbidity curtain, silt fence.
the turbidity curtain?
Right.
We're talking about rocks falling in the river,
Right.
right?
Well-
So silt fence isn't gonna do that, it's gonna have to be,
Right, it's going to
Right.
have to be some type of fine silt fence that's basically has to be anchored first and stretched out in order to catch anything.
like, under the water.
Right.
Yeah, so I just, whatever contract documents go out to bid, that has to be included.
Of course.
Yeah,
You want to make that a condition?
sorry, Christine, with one condition. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Seconded to issue a standard order with the condition that the details of the sedimentation system be included in the plans. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for coming in and good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have an enforcement order given to Stephen DeRosa, 146, 148 Alma Street, and that is the location of the violation. Paving has occurred within land subject to flooding, regulatory floodway, and within 100 feet of Beaver Brook.
Good evening, members. I'll apologize in advance. I've been a little under the weather, so if my voice falters, my apologies.
Hear you.
And please let me know if you need me to speak up. I'm an attorney. My name is Joseph Papetti. My office is at 80 Farmland Road in Lowell, and I represent the owner of the property. Here with me tonight are the project supervisor, Jeff Dillon, and the representative from the paving contractor, Boulez Paving. Just initially, and I'll try to keep this as short as possible, we're not here contesting what the order that was issued. My client bought this property. It was a two-family. When they bought it, there was a paved driveway on one side, and there was the remnants of a concrete driveway on the other. So what they decided to do was to redo both of those driveways to get them in better condition. And Mr. DeRosa owns a fair amount of property in Lowell, and in dealing with the building commissioners always stressed that they have a vested interest in off-street parking. And Elm Street is kind of a perfect example. They're trying to restrict parking as much as they can. So they've always encouraged Mr. DeRosa to do what he can to maximize his off-street. So with that in mind, they hired a paving contractor who's familiar with Lowell. He pulled a permit. For whatever reason, the permit didn't cover both areas that they ended up paving. When that came to the attention of the Conservation Commission, obviously it became an issue. We've looked at it. It's absolutely right. It was within the wetlands area, and it should have been handled differently. We're not quite sure how it didn't get picked up by somebody between the contractor and the people doing the work. Regardless, it now poses an issue, and we know it poses an issue. In my dealing with this particular owner, whenever we've had any issues with regulatory boards or anything like that, my basic position is always figure out what you're supposed to do and then just get it done. If I think that somebody has misstated the law or something, obviously I will protect them from that. But short of that, we have tried to cooperate whenever we've had any kind of situation that arose. And with the many properties that he owns in Lowell, we've never had a problem with the Conservation Commission before. So our actual intention in being here tonight was to show you that we take this very seriously. And the fact that we weren't here on a previous occasion seemed to be a lack of notice, although I don't know about that because I wouldn't have been the person noticed. But the other reason that we came here tonight is we had hoped to try to offer some kind of a mitigation scheme so that that driveway wouldn't have to be removed, so that the off-street parking, which, again, as I say, the city has indicated is an issue, would remain. We had hired a gentleman by the name of Anthony Naganga, who was supposedly an expert who was going to direct his attention to this and see if he could come up with a mitigation plan that would satisfy the wetlands issues and so forth and allow the driveway to stay. Unfortunately, this morning, he called the owner and said, I'm not really the right guy. I've looked at the papers. What you need is a wetlands engineer or somebody else. And he gave us some names, but unfortunately that doesn't allow us to present you with something tonight. I'm not here to jump on tables or to present some crazy legal defense. I'm just here saying that the owner would like to do anything he can to mitigate this as opposed to tearing out the driveway. And he's willing to spend probably more money than it would require to remove the driveway to get that done. So I don't know if there's some way that we can have an opportunity to get somebody on board to do it before you issue that final order. And that's all I'm here for tonight. If you have any questions, as I say, the project supervisor is here and a representative of the paving contractor.
Okay. Well, I was pretty concerned when I saw this enforcement order come through because of the even recent history of this neighborhood undergoing flooding, and many people had almost total losses of their homes. And every square foot of new material that you put into a situation like that is increasing and displacing water onto somebody else. This particular paving project, we have photos from the city website of the project, and it doesn't look like it was a driveway on the right side at all. It looks like it was dirt, not pavement.
Could I address that very briefly? Because I thought the same thing when I saw the picture. I asked the paving contractor, and one of the reasons that he's here, he told me, no, clearly there was a cement driveway there. He said, as a matter of fact, I had to tear it up and remove it, and I charged your client extra money to do that. So my initial response was the same as yours, but the contractor indicates there was a cement.
But there has been an expansion of the area that was paved. And
I'm not contesting.
Excuse me, may I speak without being interrupted?
Certainly.
It appears that the expansion of the driveway has passed over the property line, and that some of the pavement is now on the City of Lowell property, according to rough estimates that I paced off over there. So, I mean, that's paving city land as well, when you're already violating some wetlands ordinances, is just beyond the pale, in my opinion. And this particular neighborhood, I'm surprised there aren't some people here concerned about this, but since it's an enforcement order, it perhaps hasn't been well advertised. I don't know that if you were going to come in with some kind of mitigation plan, you'd have to get an engineer to estimate the amount of material that was put in there. Certainly a two-family home, it looks like there might be parking for 10 cars now. And certainly that's excessive and unnecessary for a two-family home. The city requires 2 spaces per unit, I believe. So I'm not feeling that, giving, enough parking spaces is an issue here. It's overly blessed with parking at this point. I'm just amazed that things like this continue to happen. I'm glad that you pulled a permit. That was the correct thing to do, but it was a permit for repaving, and certainly finding, remnants of a cement driveway that doesn't even look like a driveway on a recent picture is not what I consider a repaving project. And certainly the city inspector probably didn't expect that either. If you look on the plot plan, I believe the driveway is shown as on the left side, not on the right.
And there, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So I'm not pleased with this. I know the pavement's not going anywhere, and in the summertime, we probably won't have a flood imminently, but I'm looking for a reduction in pavement area, and I think it's, like I say, I think you've gone over the property line as well. And if you, I would be amenable to having you come in and engineer some kind of a solution, but I don't know where that solution would be found, seeing as it's a floodway, a floodplain, and you've brought in material that wasn't there before.
I understand, and I apologize for my previous interruption, but all we ask for is that, and especially the idea that some of this pavement is over the city line is news to me, and obviously that would have to be dealt with no matter what we do. So if we could have some amount of time to get an engineer, and maybe the engineer will tell us it's not practical, tear up the driveway, but at least we'd like to take a look at it and see what we can do. If we can't, we know what the alternative will be and what the requirement will be, and we're prepared to do what we have to do. Again, we want to stay on good terms with the City of Lowell and all its commissions. So if I could have a little time for my client to take a shot at that, I would appreciate it, and that's all I'm asking.
Well, certainly remediation is in order, but I'll see if anyone else has comments.
So, yeah, let me just explain this to you. So you're in a floodplain, and before you hire an engineer, the amount of impervious area that you've added, you now need to somehow get that same area. So if you can take down a shed, if you can take down concrete walkways in the back, if you could take down a deck, whatever it's gonna be literally 1 for 1. So I don't know if you can do that. I haven't been out to the site. But it's literally any impervious area that you add in a floodplain, you have to somehow mitigate that. So if you have that in the back or somewhere, then again, it's gonna be a 1 for 1. And then if not, you're gonna have to remove, if you had, let's say, 3 concrete walkways going out to gardens, you could take those out, seed those, and that square footage you could get in the driveway.
Okay.
But if you don't have that, unless you're taking down half a house, like, so it's like that raindrop needs to hit, right now it's hitting the pavement, and it's not going in the ground in a floodplain where it needs to.
Right.
So that's how this all works. So before you even hire an engineer, which I am, I wouldn't, if you don't have that.
In other words, why waste the money if we, and that's something I'll direct my
That's how
client's
you're gonna have to look
attention
at it. If there's a shed, think of a raindrop that's gonna fall, you're gonna
Right.
have to get the same amount of area. And then, that's even us, we're not even talking about, like, if the pavement's even higher than the original. So if you ended up putting 3 inches of pavement on the existing, that's a second thing you have to think of. So think of the floodplain as like a big bathtub, and if you put in a block of pavement that's 3 inches thick, that bathtub's gonna overflow, that volume. You need to also find that volume in the yard. So you'd be taking out those pavers and then even digging down. If you put 3 inches of pavement, then you gotta dig down 3 inches in the floodplain to mitigate that, if that makes sense.
It does, and I'll the project supervisor is here, so
Yeah.
he's hopefully listening as well as I am, so.
Yeah, so that's how that all works, because you're in a floodplain, and not just in Lowell, it works anywhere in a floodplain.
Okay, thank you.
You know, there's alternative methods to porous pavement, concrete pavers, which are pervious versus impervious. You mentioned your client really wants to retain that parking area. You know, you might want to look into alternative methods such as those, which an engineer would, you know, be able to help you with.
Which are expensive.
My fellow commissioners have said everything that I would say.
And just, really, for this developer, it's not so much the expense, he'd just as soon do it right if he can do it. So hopefully we'll be able to come up with a solution, otherwise we know what we have to do. It should,
I would expect that the solution would be forthcoming pretty soon, because we want this before the fall rain season.
absolutely.
Like Ms. Biedron, though, I'm not really confident that you can find a solution to this, and I think probably the ultimate solution is going to be removal of most of that right side pavement.
As I have stood here and listened to you, I am starting to believe the same thing, but we'll at least take the shot, and it may be that we come back relatively soon and say, it's not going to work, we're going to have to go to the next step. So can you give me an idea how quickly you want me to come back to you with something?
I would say
We,
at least a month.
Month, are we thinking we should have them file an after-the-fact notice of intent?
No, not until they have an engineer on board that thinks there's a solution. So, what's today, the 11th? The next meeting's the 25th,
that's the second Wednesday of August.
the 8th?
The second Wednesday of August would be about a month.
That'd be a month.
Okay, so we should be back here with some report on where we're
Yeah,
going.
I mean, it's the summer and people on vacation, I don't know, second or third. But when you come back on, if it's the 3rd, it might be like you need to get rid of that driveway by next week.
Yes, okay,
Because again, we would like this resolved by the end of August.
all right.
Yeah,
All right, I'll let my
completely
client know.
resolved, yeah.
And if you could get some kind of plans or suggestions or something to the office before the meeting, that would help us as well. And you might want to discuss with the planning department as well what your ideas are. So that's a resource as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Christine, do we have to ratify? Or is it-
It was ratified at the last meeting.
Okay.
So the enforcement order will stay in place for the time being until we hear back from you.
Thank you for your consideration. I truly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming in. Okay, we have other business here. Our next project is a enforcement order as well, Fabio Di Miranda, 293 Wentworth Ave. This is the result of the enforcement order is that he has finished his remediation, is that correct?
Yes, and Pat did a site visit last week, so he was going to present what he's done and have the commission review it, but we knew we would be down a member for this petition, so he's going to come next time.
Okay, so he'll be at the August 8th meeting? All right. So that one is put off until August 8th. This is the remediation of the enforcement order for the 293 Wentworth Ave, which I saw the photos and they look fabulous, so. Okay, we have next on the agenda 205 Billerica Street, DEP number 206-772. The applicant has submitted results of additional environmental testing, including a temporary soil removal plan dated May 11th, 2018, to satisfy the special condition number 1 on our order of conditions that we issued December 19th of 2017. I understand they're asking for another continuation, perhaps?
Yeah, we're just leaving it on the agenda because they're still working out a lot of the details of how they're going to do it. And so we're just keeping it on so we don't forget, but
Okay,
eventually
so
they'll
we'll
come
have
back.
that on our August 8th, actually, our July
25th.
July 25th
I just want
agenda.
to confirm, there's no work happening on the site currently? Okay.
Are there any other discussions that we need to bring up at this point?
No, but I just realized 293 Wentworth is going to be on the July 25th, not the August 8th.
Okay. July 25th for 293 Wentworth. Okay, we have minutes from May 9th. I believe Jared wrote them up in his usual very excellent form. Did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes?
I did not.
Were you at that meeting?
I believe I was.
Okay.
We can easily put them on the next one, or we
okay.
could easily
Put
just
Jared.
trust Jared,
Yeah.
because he does them so perfectly.
Jared, we did this last
Motion to approve. Do we have a
Motion
second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's enough approval.
Yep.
I know Jared gets them out so fast, and then
We don't want to
they
disappoint him.
linger on our
Yeah.
agenda.
We don't want him to lose momentum.
Okay, that's the end of the agenda as I have it. Do we have anything else that we need to talk about here?
No, Pat, I think, brought up a letter we had issued, and I think he told you at the last meeting it was going to be at tonight, but because of the holiday, I did put it for the next one. We haven't heard a response from the property owner yet on Barnum Avenue.
What's the number?
674.
I looked at that. I didn't see anything
So
from the
it's-
road.
It's a little tricky. You can't see it from the road.
Is that-
And so the issue is, it's actually a property we issued, the commission had issued an enforcement order on back in
Thought
2014.
that number sounded familiar.
So the photos that were provided to us were not taken by staff, or the issue wasn't seen by staff, so that's one of the reasons why I didn't issue an enforcement order.
Is it filling
It's
up?
beyond where the fence is.
Okay.
And it's a lot, I mean, there's a couple of stray plastic things, so technically trash, but mostly landscape dumping, so I'm assuming it's just sort of a dump over. The issue is it's a duplex and it's rental, it's non-owner occupied, the owner lives in another town. So obviously this has come up before, it was the same enforcement issue, so we compelled the property owner to come, but we might need to get a little creative in how we solve for it, because obviously he doesn't live there and is not doing it.
He may be in charge of the maintenance, however.
So,
Yeah,
we sent a
We had the
letter.
same issue a couple years ago, I believe.
So I issued a letter and asked him to come to the 25th meeting. I haven't gotten the green card back yet. We did send it regular mail and green card, so as long as the regular mail doesn't come back to me, notice is done. But we want him to come for a discussion about what to do.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn the Wednesday, July 11th, 2018 Conservation Commission meeting.
Seconded?
Seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.